Hello, we are Team Wishy-Washy, and this is our mod, The Good, the Bad, the Intoxicated. This is our team. I am Kai Gadwani. I am our team lead.
I'm Henry Park. I am web and boss programmer.
My name's Troy. I'm the level programmer.
I'm Robert Cospianca, and I was the artist/item programmer.
And I'm Dominic Belisario, and I created the NPCs and some weapons.
So the summary of our mod is that we are a spaghetti Western-themed mod for Terraria, featuring a dungeon quest, and our main features being the saloon-themed dungeon, our old gunslinger NPC, our bartender NPC, 6 custom weapons, and a fully custom boss. Comparing to our original design doc, we have a much lighter original design with our MVP, and compared to the full version, which has the same base core but is now much more fleshed out. Our design is very close to the original, but most of the stretch goals were also achieved. The things that changed compared to that is that the structure we originally planned as a stretch goal for that to be generating in the overworld, with the part of it to be in a subworld, which we decided was not worth the time, so we scrapped that. And then part of that was balancing which items were given to which NPCs that we scrapped as part of that.
Hey, I'm Bobby Cospianca, Sam Cospianca as last guy. Still the artist and item programmer. When it came to the design of this mod, I kind of hit the ground running, to the very least. I helped with the rest of my team develop the initial layout of the dungeon before we fully expanded it and made it huge and explorable. I designed the enemy types, what ones will be running at you, which ones will be shooting at you, what they'll be shooting at you with, all that fun stuff. I designed the weapons that would be implemented not just by the enemies, but also by the player. And I was kind of going crazy with the lore and the story around 8-Ball Paul, his billiard boys, and why you're even going to the saloon, the Tombstone Tap House in the first place.
So again, I'm Troy, the level programmer, and most of what I worked on for this semester was building out the saloon and the dungeon for our mod and getting it to work with T-Edit and then generating it in the subworld library, which we used.
As for our assets, all of our original pixel art was created by Bobby. Our music and NPC designs were created by Troy. For our pixel art resources, we use Spider's Resource, the official Terraria wiki, and Piscal for editing. And our music resources were Ableton for editing.
Back again. When it came to our assets, I basically made everything you see. When it came to implementing the sprites for the NPCs, the boss, which went through a few changes. I believe you'll see that later in this presentation. All of the weapons, most of the items that are used in the Saloon 2 that actually have functionality were designed by me, not implemented by me. That goes to the rest of my lovely team. And when it comes to actually describing the weapons and items that you get, that was also me writing tooltips, descriptions, and even entries in the bestiary.
Yeah, so I also created the music, and I also sketched out some sketches of NPCs and the boss to inform Bobby with the design that he could go for when he's creating the sprites in physical. And yeah, I think they came out pretty nicely.
Cool. And then for our technical stuff, these are some of our challenges that we ran into and then how we got over them. First, starting with our structure generation.
Structure generation in T-Edit and with T-Edit and T-Mod Loader was really strange because a lot of the time to save a structure, Structure Helper, which is a external tool that we used, it saves it into a folder outside of the mod, meaning that we had to, every time we wanted to save it, we'd have to drag it from that folder into our mod folder so that it would save, and we could save it every time we built and reloaded the mod, which caused a lot of headaches down the line, but I think it went well.
Next is our stabbing weapon, which is something I worked on. The the way that Terraria does most of their weapons besides the basic swinging swords is by implementing it as a projectile instead of a actual weapon in the way that the other, like the most common weapons are, which is a confusing process to figure out. But reading some more documentation, we figured that out and had to make two different classes for it. But it's worked out. Next is our sprite sheets.
Yeah, the sprite sheets in Terraria are all, for some reason, different. Some are vertical, some are horizontal, and all of them are like a sprite sheet for an NPC has its like walking animation, its attack animation, talk animation, hello animation. It's all on one, and you have to like section it off in the code instead of just in individual PNGs, and that was definitely something I had to learn and account for and get used to.
And then lastly is our fully custom AI.
Yeah, so the enemies, like I had to program the enemies AI, but then I never knew that I also need to make them like deal with those like block total short slopes, and then if I don't do that, they can even like go over the slopes. So my first idea was using the vanilla AI from the Terraria, but it gave me another problem that their AI is like kind of hard to tweak over, and yeah, so I ended up like making the fully custom AI, and it actually went well. So now the enemies like they have now cool AIs. They also can deal with the slopes, so they kind of solved the problem.
When it came to the gun weapons, I was the main gunsmith. Um, I created the lever action, the six shooter, and the bolt action shotgun. Each of them were based off of similar weapons that we would find in pre-hard mode, but altered a bit so they're a bit more fast fire and ask questions later. And the big weapon, which is the big kahuna for this mod, was the Rattler. The Rattler is a ricochet shotgun that is wielded by 8-Ball Paul, and it is the boss weapon that you will receive after removing him of his responsibilities.
So one way that I found to kind of combine Subworld and Structure Helper was to kind of save it automatically through the code instead of saving it manually. And I also was able to, with kind of doing that in T-Edit, I was able to make like control points for everything that we wanted to spawn, because you can also not have mod items like directly saved through Structure Helper. So I had to load them in afterwards. One item specifically that taught me that was the trapdoor. With the trapdoor, I had to make a custom trapdoor that locks and unlocks, so that the player can't really get to it. Obviously, you can still go around it, but hopefully players won't want to do that and will actually buy the key that we made for the trapdoor. But yeah, that was interesting.
So yeah, I am again Dominic Belisario. I was in charge of creating the NPCs and some weapons. So for the NPCs, we wanted them to be introduced throughout like the general story. You get the old gunslinger appears in your village once you get a gun or a bullet. He will sell you he'll sell you a map that will teleport you to the saloon. Once you're there, you'll find the bartender who like Troy said will sell you the key that gets you into the dungeon. But after you defeat the boss, we wanted the bartender to appear in your shop. To appear in your town, and we want to have him sell like different items and stuff. So in order to do that, I just made a new NPC that had different behavior, different items it sold. And so the bartender in the saloon just stands still, but the one in the town walks around, talks to you, throws bottles and stuff. So there was that. I also created a weapon, the Bounty. It's a magical weapon that shoots seeking skulls at enemies that apply a damage multiplier to them, so they take more damage.
Yeah, Yeah, this is Yanu, and I made boss and the enemies, and it starts with the four-bodied enemies. So in general, they have three AI states: either notice and attack, and yeah, they kind of like repeat those states to kind of make the like literally the enemy. So the first enemy, number three, is a basic melee enemy. This guy is like a brutal enemy trying to burst to the player no matter what. And once they get close enough to the player, they charge towards them. So it kind of has a cooldown, but then it makes the it makes them more brutal. And then the other three enemies are using firearms. Number 14 using the shotgun. Number 2 is a sniper, and number 7 using a revolver. And they try to maintain some nice distance from the player. And they also have 3 attack states, which is aim, shoot, and rest, to make them like kind of consistent with their shooting. And then it's time for the boss, which is the best part of the like, or the final part of the game. So it's a stationary boss hanging on the ceiling, but then when the player attacks them, the spider starts swinging from the damage source, so it also makes their movement dynamic. And they also have the algorithm so that the player can look at their attack and dodge them. And other than the boss and enemy, I also implemented their spawns. So in the software, the player can use the item to the furniture in the boss room to spawn the boss. And I also changed some spawn values, such as the spawn rate, the maximum spawn capacity, and also the spawn pool of the software, so that the only the both enemies can spawn in the software, and then I also made them kind of like consistent and more often to get spawned.
Hi, I'm Kai. The other things that I've done for the technical side is I created our original subworld and implemented the subworld library. I created our broken bottle melee weapon. That was the stabbing weapon I mentioned earlier, and I did pretty much all of our code reviews and PRs, except with an exception of a couple. As for production, we use Trello for progress tracking, our GitHub for version control, and then both Trello and GitHub were set up using Archimesh's Echo's VIP standards. And then some things that I would do differently is I would make stand-ups standardized to be using the progress plans problems model. I would document those stand-ups in like a meeting notes folder. I would have a documented meeting notes and agendas. And then I would have more regular dev to main branch merges. All of these things were stuff that I would have liked to do, but did not have the bandwidth or the time to do this semester. And then for the actual tasks that I did was I created the Trello, I created our GitHub, I organized all of our team meetings, I created our mod pages for Nexus and Steam, I wrote our mod description, gathered the mod media for these, I updated our game design doc, and I recorded our mod playthrough. In conclusion, we are a spaghetti western themed dungeon quest mod featuring our saloon dungeon, 2 NPCs, 6 weapons with maybe more to come, 4 enemies, a fully custom boss, and originally we started with a small MVP with goals that we greatly succeeded, and almost everything that we originally planned was implemented. Thank you so much.